Okay. So this video is going to be detailing the anti-institute split. I think okay, so I used to call it signal interceptor, but anti-institute is a little bit shorter, so that's that. Also, this split technically starts when I leave the glowing sea, but I'm starting it here because this is when the last video ended, and because from the edge of the glowing sea to this point, there's not much to talk about except for the fact that the two random event spots between there and here are possibly good places to find dead bodies to eat. So yeah, I'll carry on. So you just run past as normal. If there are dead bodies that you can eat, you would eat them. Otherwise, leave them, I guess. Alright. Also, at this point right over here, this is where you want to ditch your power armor, because because that way you can run to Preston, kill the raiders and all that without power armor, and that's a little bit faster than doing it with sometimes it takes a while for you to exit, but you know, what happens happens. Okay, so assuming there aren't any dead bodies at all in the two spots where random events can happen, or like nobody you can kill to make dead bodies, you want to run past here. Actually go this way. Okay. Actually, this is probably the better idea, to be honest. There's a dead body right here. And there's also a sleeping bag there, but not useful for right now. So yeah, there's a dead body, and then you just run past. And you want to go around that bit of road there because you can get landmines there. And that's also why I wouldn't eat any of the dead bodies there, because again, you might start to eat a dead body, but also touch a landmine, and it might blow up while you're in the animation, and then there's nothing you can do. So, you know, the dead body that you see me eat right there is probably better. I guess the other thing to point out is that I run to the right of Cambridge Polymer Labs rather than running through the riverbank, because that's a little faster. Again, so you know, do that too. So I go past here, and then at this point you can basically follow the marker exactly. Try not to get hit by those cars. I've never seen Reggie Plataria spawn, so you're fine on that front. Continue running. Okay, so about here. For one, there's a quantum there. I never have a need to go for it. If you really need it, then go for it, but otherwise, just keep on running. and sometimes there might be raiders over there, because the way that Drumlet Diner works is that if you in the quest order up kill Wolfgang and Simone, then reappearing there you might end up with yeah, you might end up with raiders there, because the idea is that the raiders would normally go for Wolfgang for drugs, but he's not there, so they end up really angry. If you run past here, though, you won't have much of an issue. If you really need it, there's a med box in there, but typically you will only need the med box if you have like lethargy or something. Also, if you're really concerned, there's a mattress up there, but I never feel the need to save there. And then I just run through here. Now, what you will be seeing next is what I call late Museum of Freedom, but something that I originally, when I was considering between late Museum of Freedom and early Museum of Freedom, I was basically calculating power armor plus 10mm pistol versus no power armor and spray and pray. Right? But with early Museum of Freedom, you would do roof jump and then enter the museum from the roof. Whereas with a late Museum of Freedom, you do roof jump anyway, but then you enter the museum from the bottom, so you're doing a little bit more running. Possibly with early Museum of Freedom, I could also use some of the items to need less charisma, but that's not in the cards for right now. The other big thing is that early Museum of Freedom means early perception, which means rather than getting Demolition Expert 2 after talking to Preston, I would be able to get it after talking to Virgil in Glowing Sea 1, so that I would have extra damage with a Railroad and with Green Tech Genetics and the Corsa. So there's that. And so like early Museum of Freedom, I technically would, I would still do the roof jump, but the Museum of Freedom itself would require less running around. So originally I calculated a 50-second time save, then considering that I would have to do roof jump anyway, it kind of brought it down to maybe 30 seconds possibly, all things considered. And then it's also possible that I could save another 30 seconds by having Demo Expert 2 for the Um, for green tech, the Corsa, the railroad, anything else that needs to be killed. But also that extra damage not only means that the enemies die faster, it means I would use less ammo, and so it would more easily warrant being able to skip bartering in particular sections, which would be a little bit more time on top of that. So there's that. But assuming late museum, well, I didn't need to shoot that guy, but assuming late Museum of Freedom, you wanna run through here. Also, this will automatically complete out of time. The first raider will be right there. Don't worry about that fusion core at all. Oh yeah, that reminds me. The other way that early Museum of Freedom might save time is that I could replace buying the bobby pins and getting the Starlight Fusion Core and replace it with the Museum of Freedom half core, which probably loses about, let's say 10 seconds. Let's say it loses 10 seconds. It would also, I mean, the other core at Starlight Drive-In loses 30, so it would also save another 20 seconds on top of everything else, possibly making early Museum of Freedom overall faster, but I haven't yet implemented that. So also next raider over there, kill that guy. The next two are over here. They'll usually go down pretty quickly. If you're doing early Museum of Freedom, it might be worthwhile to look through the duffel bags and ammo boxes and whatnot. Otherwise, there's really no need to at all. Open the door. Next raider right there. And then the last two are always right there. So I got both of them with that, and then the door opens. You also don't need that magazine for anything. Just talk to these two guys. And then it's, assuming you're here at this point and you have, and like you have done late Museum of Freedom, yeah. The next thing you want to do is then, okay. Also, okay. So first thing, when you see clear Concord or hostiles, that's when you can leave those guys. Then you pick up the bobblehead, and then you get some perks. So you'll start off with 2 perception. The bobblehead is a 3rd, so you do 2 more points in perception, 2 points in demolition expert, and then 1 or 2 points in commando, depending on how many points you have left. So there's that. Otherwise, with early Museum of Freedom, I would have both demolition expert a little bit earlier. So yeah, 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, and then I have 1 point left, which goes into commando, and then I leave. And then, oh, okay. As soon as you leave, the first guy you want to make sure you absolutely definitely kill is this guy on the roof, because this guy is one of the raiders you have to kill to satisfy the clear concord of raiders of hostiles thing. So kill that guy till you get the thing. That was cool. And then here you just want to generally kill raiders. As generally kill the raiders that you see as you go to where the Deathclaw is, taking Psycho Jet or Stimpaks as you need them. There's like stuff there. And so, your jets kill the Deathclaw. This Deathclaw usually goes down pretty quick. And then I think what happens is that after killing a couple of raiders while the game is processing the Deathclaw's death, I kill those 2 raiders, and then it says clear concord of hostiles. I don't register that there's no tick, and so I run back. When it says clear concord of hostiles and there's no tick, it's basically just updated the quest objective, which happens either if you kill the raiders first or if you kill the Deathclaw first. Obviously in the speedrun, the Deathclaw is killed before all of the raiders are. So when you just see this without the tick, don't go straight for in there. Generally by this point what I will do is I will turn on the quest something freedom. I think it's called to freedom or something like that. And yeah. So by this point I'll turn that quest on. That causes all the rest of the raiders to show their to show up on your HUD, so you can just shoot them as you need to. So I'll go forward a bit. By this point I've noticed that the quest isn't on and I haven't gotten the right point. I go back. There was only one guy left. I shoot him and I run back. Right as these guys are here. Now, these are the guys that can go aggro if I've at least in one circumstance. I mentioned at the start of the memories video that it might be because of those turrets on Fort Hagen. The other possibility is that it was because I had shot up one of the cars and then that car went on to later blow up with one of these guys next to it, which then aggroed them. So also it might be an idea to try to avoid shooting any cars with your spray and pray. So you go into here. You're going to stand here. Again, just do X as normal. You don't need to talk to Mama Murphy. You just wait for the quest to update and then you can go away. And that's all you need. Now by this point, you might want to eat one of these guys. I would generally wait until I'm at Sanctuary before I eat the drifter that's in front of Sanctuary. Just in case the Brotherhood decide to react unfavorably to eating a dead body. So I run up here. Oh, I also decided to pick up a telephone. All right. So when you get back to over here, you want to access the workshop like that. And then you want to build a bed and sleep in it for 7 hours. So doing 7 hours causes you to get well rested, and it also means that you'll definitely warp Preston and everybody else over here so that you don't have to wait for them. So yeah. So yeah, there's that. So I do that. Take the chems, find Preston, talk to him. The first thing I'll tell you about is, you know, about your story, about his story. He'll tell you to go to 10 Pines Bluff. At least he's done so every time in my speed running. Now, if you continue trying to talk to him after this, yeah, like that. If you keep on mashing X, he should always give you the dialogue about deciphering the signal interceptor. You always need to go through that dialogue anyway, so it is preferable if you go through it now, because you're a bit more time sensitive talking to Preston after helping the settlement. So run this way. Might be an idea to give this house a bit more of a wide berth, because when you come back, that's when we build the actual teleporter. And so it wastes quite a bit of time if all the settlers decide to kill a couple of bloatflies. So you run past here, you basically follow the marker as usual. Yeah, I'm just double checking the quest is that. So you do that. Skip forward a bit. This is a thicket. Oh yeah, I think I realised that from sleeping at Sanctuary I got insomnia, so I took the antibiotics for later on. It might actually be an idea, if you get insomnia, to save any antibiotics until before you do a sleep, rather than when you find out. So that's generally why sprinting is using AP here. Typically at this point you won't be using AP at all. Also, I think that maybe the people are in like a weird spot, so I check again, but no, they're fine. They were in the right spot. If they weren't, I wouldn't have been able to finish the run. So you want to as Tomato Anus would put it, you want to give these guys a couple of bullets, so you do the one with the marker on them, and you do the one without the marker. The reason why I killed both, even though I don't strictly speaking need to, is because as I eat one, I won't be attacked by the other. So that makes things pretty useful. So there's that. Once I've eaten them, I run back to Preston. Again, where the marker is. And then I just run past any enemies that might be in my way. So you just generally run straight to where the dot is. On the way to Preston, there is a small chance of coming across super mutants, which can also have a suicide in the midst. They're kind of dangerous, but it is up to you whether or not you want to try shooting them or running away. Alright. So I run past here. I find that the random event is the iBot, which is completely fine. So straight to Preston. So he'll give dialogue about making me the leader of the Minutemen. Once that dialogue is done, you'll usually have some difficulty in convincing him to give you the dialogue for the teleporter. So let's see what happens here. Yeah, at this point, he's not being cooperative. But it takes a while, and then there we go. Typically, if Preston doesn't cooperate as much and you end up with him becoming a follower of you, you can go to talk to actually have him do the dialogue. That part is usually consistent. Other than that, preventing Preston from locking up isn't something that I know about. So you do this dialogue, he sends you to the Sturges. Like, also once that stuff is done, straight to Sturges. Also having that quest marker up is pretty useful because Sturges can be hiding from you where you can't easily see. Now with Sturges, you want to generally go through his dialogue like everybody else, unless he then gets into his Sanctuary quest dialogue. If he does get into that dialogue, then you have to tell him that you won't do the quest so that he'll be updated properly for the next bit of dialogue. And you do that by like doing the circle right dialogue. Also, the other thing is that if by this point you only have one military circuit board, if you only have one military circuit board right now, you need to drop it. Otherwise, the game is very likely to use it up when building the beam reflector thingy. So I think here I check. Yeah, I see that I have one, so I drop it. And then build this. Pick it back up. And then talk back to Sturges. I think he almost always walks over here, so maybe walking the other way is better. So you do that dialogue. Then it gets to this bit. The stuff here you can build in any order, so long as there's enough space for everything. You build the other bits and bobs, and then you need to build 6 medium generators to have enough power for the whole thing. So there I have enough materials for 9, so that's easy. I think there 11. Yeah, so here the limiting factor is rubber. I don't think I've ever had to get more rubber, but if I did, there's plenty of tires around, so rubber isn't that big of a deal anyway. But if you don't have enough ceramic, that takes longer to deal with. So that's why we definitely pick up those coffee cups. So you build 6 generators, you wire them up, you know, basically the same as any other category that enters the institute. You kind of want to wire these linearly to reduce the amount of wires you need. Typically also at this point I will sleep for 1 or 7 hours. This is to prevent glitch later on where in the institute the game can soft lock, but I will be talking about that in the next video. So all this is just sleep for 7 hours, which you don't strictly speaking need to do anyway. Take the chems, talk to Sturges. Also what's happened is, oh yeah, I hate him. That's also why you don't pick up stuff from people that you don't need to pick up. I could have not picked up that minigun and saved like 5 seconds. So you talk to Sturges, and then you'll be locked onto the platform and then wait for its dialogue. And then you'll be teleported in. Now, if you give the house right there a wide berth, you'll avoid aggroing the bloatflies, and you'll minimize the risk of anybody trying to attack them, and that'll generally make things a bit easier. Another thing that can happen is that you can, I guess, have Sturges get aggroed and then teleport onto the roof. If that happens, you're boned. I also think that if that happens while you're locked onto the platform, that would be a soft lock as well. On top of just not being able to get Sturges down there easily. So yeah, then you get teleported in. And once the screen goes white as you're teleported, that will be the end of the video and the end of the split. The next video will be detailing synth retention. But that's it for this.